All set.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Allison. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kyle Stone. Welcome to our committee and board meetings this evening, April 24, 2024. We're a little after 7 p.m. We have a quorum, so I'll make the requisite motion so that we can conduct these meetings virtually. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically, the Park Authority Board needs to make certain findings for the record to evidence our compliance with Virginia Code 2.2-3708.2. These motions address this compliance. I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in these meetings to state your name and the location from which you are participating. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you can hear each of your colleagues. Following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member's voice. We will go alphabetically, and as the evening progresses, if additional board members join us, we'll add them in and verify their audibility and location. My name is Chairman Stone, and I'm at my residence in the Braddock District. And I will at this point pass the virtual gavel off to Vice Chair Maggie Godbold so that I may be heard to make the requisite motions.
Chairman Stone, we need to
skipped
do the
everyone's
roll
names.
call.
Yeah, I skipped everyone's names right over the paragraph that Allison typed for me. Let's start with Dr. Houghton. I don't see Abena on the line. So Bill,
I'm here.
Oh, you are here.
Hi.
Dr. Adu.
Abena Edu Houghton from my home in the Franconia district.
Thank you. Bill?
Bill Bowie, participating from the Ponderosa in the thriving metropolis of Reston, Virginia in the Hunter Mill district.
Dr. Carter.
Cynthia Jacobs Carter. I'm participating from my home in Franconia district.
Maggie?
Maggie Godbold, participating from my home in the Sully district.
Thank you. Linwood?
Linwood Gorham, participating from my home in the Mount Vernon district.
Tim?
Tim Hackman from my home in the Dratesville district.
Ron?
This is Ron Kendall, participating from my home in Mason district.
I don't see Faisal, correct? All right. Allison, has Ken joined us? Is he called in or is he still?
Not yet.
Okay. Michael?
Mike Thompson from my office in Alexandria.
And Jonah?
Jonah Toomey, calling from my home in the Dranesville district.
Thank you. And I'm Kyle Stone, and I'm at residence in the Braddock district. At this point, I will pass the virtual gavel to Vice Chair Maggie Godbold so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board.
This is Maggie Godbold. You have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second.
Thanks, Tim. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Mr. Chair, that motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Second, I move that the Park Authority Board will hold an all virtual public meeting because circumstances warrant the holding of an all virtual public meeting, including but not limited to the convenience of an all virtual meeting.
This is Maggie Godbold. You have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second.
Thanks, Tim. This is Maggie again. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Maggie. This is Kyle Stone again. Third, I move that the Park Authority Board has not had more than 2 all virtual public meetings or more than 25% of its meetings rounded up to the next whole number, whichever is greater during the calendar year since the emergency order was lifted. And 2, the Park Authority Board's last meeting was not an all virtual public meeting.
This is Maggie Godbold. You all have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second.
Thank you, Tim. This is Maggie again. It has been moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Thanks. That motion passes.
Thank you, Maggie. This is Kyle Stone again. As a result, I further move that the Park Authority Board conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video and audio conferencing line, and that the public may access this meeting by calling 602-333-0032 and entering access code 646450.
Thanks, Kyle. This is Maggie again. You have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second.
Thanks, Tim. This is Maggie. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. That motion passes.
All right, this is Kyle again. Finally, I move that the meeting of the Park Authority Board to be held this day is in conformance with this body's all virtual public meeting policy. And as such, the meeting notice indicated that the public meeting will be all virtual, and the notice stated that the method by which the Park Authority Board chose to meet would not be changed unless the Park Authority provided a new meeting notice in accordance with VA Code 2.2-3707. Public access to this meeting is provided by electronic communication means that allows the public to hear all participating members of the Park Authority Board. Audio-visual technology, if available, is used to allow the public to see the members of the Park Authority Board during this meeting. A phone number, email address, or other live contact information is provided to the public to alert the Park Authority Board if electronic transmission of this meeting fails for the public. And if such transmission fails, the Park Authority Board will take a recess until public access is restored. A copy of the proposed agenda and all agenda packets have been made available to the public electronically. At the same time, such materials were provided to the members of the Park Authority Board. The public is afforded the opportunity to comment through electronic means, including written comments at meetings where public comment is customarily received. And there are no more than 2 members of the Park Authority Board together in one physical location.
This is Maggie. You all have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second.
Thanks, Tim. This is Maggie Godbold again. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Maggie. Now that all that is taken care of, we can begin the Communications and Community Engagement Committee meeting. Bill, the floor is yours.
One step further, Ken is joined on the phone, so if we could read him in, that would be great.
Sure. Ken, could you please state your name and the location from which you are calling for us?
Ken Quincy, calling from my residence in the Providence District.
Thank you, sir. All right, Bill, now it's your turn.
All right, this is Bill Bowie, and I'd like to call to order the Communications and Community Engagement Committee, which is a committee of the whole, and turn it over to Ben or Jay, or there's going to be a presentation.
Ben, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Everyone?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be with you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Ben Boxer, the Public Information Officer for the Fairfax County Park Authority. The purpose of tonight's presentation is just to provide a broad overview of the testimony that was shared mentioning the Fairfax County Park Authority in the 3-day budget public hearing hosted by the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors between April 16th and April 18th. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you, Allison. In total, over the course of 3 days, we did have 14 speakers who spoke in support of the Park Authority, our initiatives, and in particular the funding that was granted as part of the proposed FY 2025 budget by the county executive. Those speakers included our own chairman, Kyle Stone, Chair Anita Herrera of the Park Foundation, a variety of friends groups, allied support groups, and a number of individual citizens who mentioned support for Fairfax County parks within the context of their testimony. Next slide, please. The general theme of the topics that were mentioned are before you. I want to definitely begin. There was a strong commonality among the testimony of those speaking for parks, expressing appreciation, not only for the funding that was proposed and put forward to the Park Authority in the proposed budget, but the fact that it was baseline funding and not one-time funding. And even more importantly, that in a year where the county executive did conduct an exercise to investigate potential for cuts, they chose not to take any of the cuts from that were put forward by the Park Authority. So there was appreciation for that. There was, again, a strong response by those testifying, referring to the equity study whose recommendations we shared with this board and the Board of Supervisors a number of months ago as a beginning to an ongoing conversation that will take place over the course of the next year. And they were expressing urging the board to be an active participant in that discussion and to work towards funding the recommendations that would make Park more accessible or affordable for residents of the county. Additional topics that came up included funding for invasives removal. Bamboo was mentioned, but it extended beyond that topic to also include the IMA program. We had a mention for additional funding for the synthetic turf field replacement program. Bilingual staff and language translation was again mentioned this year. Desire for more funding to expand our use of alternate languages and a variety of mediums within the parks. There was a common thread of asking for more funding for on-staff site positions at our sites. There was also support, as probably Chairman Kyle Stone will mention here in a moment. There was support to investigate dedicated funding sources for the parks. That included mentions of the meals tax and the transit occupancy tax. And of course, just generally more funding from the general fund to support the ongoing operations of the parks to become less dependent on the revenue model. That's a brief summary of the topics that have been presented. I don't know if we have Jay or anyone would like to add to that, but be happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions? All right. Is there any other business to be conducted this evening? Okay. Well, with that, we are adjourned.
No. All right, we're coming out of recess and this is Kyle Stone. We're coming out of recess and about to start the budget committee meeting. Before we do that, Faisal, could you please state your name and where you're calling from?
This is Faisal Khan. I'm at my residence in Providence District.
Great, thank you. Ken, it's all you. Ken, you there?
Can you hear me?
Ken now.
Okay, apparently I was muted. I'd like to, if it's okay, turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Hackman since he is connected and I'm not. Is that okay?
Okay, this is Tim Hackman. I'm happy to call the Budget Committee to order, and we'll turn over the presentation to Mike Peter. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Chairman Quincy. Thank you, Vice Chairman Hackman. I am coming tonight a little bit earlier from when we usually do this. If you recall, the last few years we have come forward to the Park Authority Board with a budget adjustment request as part of the fourth quarter. Remember, we did this earlier in February based on where we were as of our December and January numbers. And then we generally make an adjustment after that third quarter because the fourth quarter is relatively predictable in terms of weather and other eventualities. So tonight, it's a little bit different in that we are still projecting to exceed by a very decent amount last year's revenue. It's just by not quite as much. And we also need a little bit of additional expenditure authority, still in the positive for this year. But we wanted to go through this relatively quickly here to save some time for questions that you may have. Next slide, please, Allison. So this fourth quarter budget adjustment. First of all, on the revenue side, our revenue estimates have decreased by about $1.3 million or 6%. We were focusing on about $63 million, almost $63 million, and now we're focusing at about $60.8 million. Remember, our original predictions that we came forward with were really based on our actuals as of January. And they were assuming that we would have blue skies all throughout January, February, and March. And as we know, we had significant rain, which closed down our outdoor activities on several days during that time, as well as having a snow day during that time as well. Our expenditure authority, we will be requesting that we increase that by $1.1 million. And that's twofold. We've talked quite a bit in our different budget discussions about the additional costs associated with our staff, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. We also have seen the need to increase our seasonal staffing based on overall increased volume at our rec centers and in our other inside programs. This is purely based on the demand that we have. So it's a mixed bag of a message here. And the result is that we are projecting right now that we would decrease our estimated net revenue by $2.4 million, which would still have us in the positive, but that's the net result of all of this. So if we'll bear with me here for just a second, we'll go to the next slide where we can start to explain some of this. So you've seen this each time we talk about things here. These are our revenue trends. And as you can see, we had a very successful first quarter. Second quarter was a little bit lower, but still over last year, over the COVID averages or pre-COVID averages, and in line with what our expectations were. In third quarter, you can see the far right green bar. That far right green bar is a combination of both what our actuals were for the quarter, and then there's a little bit of a bar on top of that that shows what we were projecting our actuals to be. Again, remember, when we have to close down our outdoor operations, we certainly still have staff associated with running our facilities, but that's lost revenue when we can't get out on the golf courses, especially. Fourth quarter, we're still expecting and forecasting based on all of our enrollments and based on the activity that we've seen for our summer classes, our summer camps, our wait lists. We're still expecting to exceed last year and the non-COVID averages. And you can see that in that sort of checked bar right on the very far right there. Next line or next slide, please. These are our expenditures. Our expenditures did increase in the third quarter of this year compared to last year. Still not over our pre-COVID averages. But with this is again primarily driven by the increased staff costs that we'll be talking about here in just a moment. Our biggest two quarters in terms of expenditure are still our first and our fourth quarter. And we have taken some steps to make sure that we are expending less wherever we can. But again, in the revenue fund, this is all really focused on meeting the demands for our programs as we move forward into the summer. Next slide, please. So then here you see our net revenue. We've talked about the first and the second quarter, and you can see the fourth quarter is generally negative net revenue, but you can see that small bar in the third quarter where you can see that on top of the green showing what we had expected initially here. So again, we're still over what we've done in the past in our net revenue, not just by not as much as we had anticipated. Next slide, please. So the reasons for the expenditure adjustment. First of all, our hourly rate has increased for our non-merit staff by an average of 9%. As you recall in previous meetings when we talked about the impact of our salary compression study and making sure that we were bringing any market rate adjustments that were enjoyed by the merit staff in the budget, we brought that over to the non-merit staff as well. So on average, it's about a 9% increase. We also have seen increased hours to accommodate increased demand. For instance, our increase in our rec center memberships, which requires more staffing in the building, it's about 6% year over year. And just to date, year over year in program participation is 2%. Next slide, please. So just for comparison's sake here, again, you can see that our average hourly rate for our seasonal staff, which really, moves on into the summer as well, about a 9% increase on average for overall all of our hourly staff and our seasonal slots. Watermine has seen a big increase, at least percentage-wise, and this is really primarily to the fact there is great competition for lifeguards, especially in the summertime, and we have to be able to be competitive, and we have been competitive. We are hitting or exceeding our hiring projections for the Watermine for this summer. Our rec centers also went up by a little over 7%. Managed parks went up by a little less than 8%. So this is about an increase of $1.3 million over FY23. And this is really necessary, again, to keep our facilities open, to make sure that we're meeting the increased demand where there is increased activity, and to be competitive in hiring. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example, we've done some analysis here. This is looking at to date our rec centers. You can see on the far left, to date, basically as of the end of March, last year we had expended about $4.4 million for the next bar there, 231,196 hours that were claimed by our seasonal staff. Now, here we are in FY24, we are at $5.2 million for 249,891 hours. So it's both an increase in the cost, and here in the rec centers, an increase in the number of hours as well. Next slide, please. So what this comes down to is a request for the budget committee to review and hopefully recommend approval of one more budget adjustment. You can see on the far left what our original budget was going into this year. When the Park Authority Board reviewed this in February, we had increased the revenue and increased the expenditures, both to make sure that we were compensating for the demand that we were seeing in all of our programs, the changes in fees. And remember, we've also adjusted our fee schedule. So when the Board of Supervisors approves the final budget for this year, if there are certain increases that were over what we had anticipated for the MRA, we'll have an opportunity to review and update those different costs in there as well. But that's essentially what this FY24 current budget did, get us to the level of what we were expecting to see happening for this year, which would have had us at a $3.8 million net. So as you can see, based on what we just talked about, we are proposing that we wouldn't hit $62 million, but we are very confident in ending the year at $60,800,000. So that's a decrease of $1.3 million. And then an increase in the expenditures of almost $1.1 million, really, as you can see, focused primarily in non-merit salaries and benefits. That's the lion's share of it, which would mean that we would not realize a $3.8 million net, but we would realize the $1.4 million. So a $2.4 million reduction in the net, but still positive. Next slide, please. So this will lead to other conversations when we close the year out and we are looking at what we would propose and review with the Park Authority Board on where we would focus our net revenue. Remember what we're focusing on here. We have our revenue stabilization reserve, which is that fund balance that we've talked about quite a bit, and based on Park Authority Board vote in the past, there's a required minimum 10% of expenditures, which would be about $6 million, and we're at $4.7 million in there right now. We're continuing to make progress towards deferring revenue that we received this year for our summer programs that take place in the next fiscal year. And of course, the biggie, the investment back into our revenue sinking fund for deferred maintenance and reinvestment. Last year, we were able to bring $3.4 million into that, and we've really distributed and focused that on rec center projects across the board. So this means that we will have less to spread around, but these would be the three areas that we would focus on for that as well. Still a positive, just not as much a positive as we were originally forecasting. So with that, Mr. Hackman, I can turn it back over to you to see if there are any questions or issues that need to be raised.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the presentation. Does anybody have any questions for Mike? Seeing and hearing none, I'll declare the Budget Committee adjourned and turn it back to Chairman Kyle Stone.
Thank you, Tim. This is Kyle Stone.
Do we have to make a motion?
Wait,
to move
wait,
that
wait.
forward?
Wasn't there an action item?
Oh, yeah, sorry
That's
about that.
right.
Let me reconvene the budget item. So is there consensus to move this forward to the full board?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
All right, now you're adjourned.
And now we can adjourn the meeting and turn it back to Kyle. Thank you, Mike.
All right, we'll call this is Kyle Stone. I'll call the April 24, 2024 Park Authority Board meeting to order at 7:33. Ben, do we have any speakers signed up this evening?
Mr. Chairman, we do have a speaker who has signed up this evening, and I do see them joining us in the meeting here. I'd like to turn 5 minutes over to Ms. Talis Robinson for her remarks.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Ben. My name is Talis Robinson. I have been a resident of Fairfax County for about 12 years. On June 29th, 2022, as I was driving down Rolling Road, one of your county Parks and Recs employees had hit me, T-boned me at the intersection of Bower and Rolling. Her name was Kate Perry. Due to the fact that the county is behind sovereign immunity, I believe, no one has taken accountability for my vehicle being totaled. I am a single mom of one. This accident has caused me not only to lose my job, it lost me to almost lose my apartment. I lost everything. It sent me down a state of depression. The fact that there has been no accountability for the vehicle that is under 10,000, like it was a piece of garbage, but it was my piece of garbage that I worked for. No one is taking accountability. I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. This has drastically changed my life. And here we are 2 years later, and I'm having to get evicted out of my apartment because I cannot get a job without a vehicle. I'm having to go to the grocery store with the 6-year-old and a car seat and the groceries because I do not have this vehicle and no one is willing to take responsibility for the accident. I know that Mike Bonneville was her supervisor at the time, and it's distressing to be a resident of this county and not being able to live my life effectively just because one person made an honest mistake. I believe it was an honest mistake, but the fact that it has not been addressed is extremely frustrating. I just wanted to make my voice heard. I wanted to be heard by others. And I want people to go to sleep tonight and be able to think that there is somebody out here that is completely struggling unnecessarily. Thank you for your time and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Talis, for that testimony. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our list of speakers for the evening.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. All right, we have one administrative item this evening. Is the adoption of the minutes for the March 13th, 2024 Park Authority Board meeting. This is Kyle Stone, and I would move the adoption of the minutes. Do we have a second? Maggie?
Tim Hackman, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Mr. Chair, I abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay, that motion carries with one
Mr.
abstention.
Chair, I abstain also. I was not there.
All right, that motion carries with 2 abstentions. We got one action item as well. This is Kyle Stone. And the action item is the fiscal year 2024 out of cycle budget increase. Do we have a motion?
I will move to approve the FY 2024 out of cycle budget increase fund 80,000 park revenue and operating fund.
Thank you.
Mr.
Do we
Chair,
have a
this is
second?
Maggie. I second the motion.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That is it this evening for action items. We have 3 information items this evening. Info 1 is the Mobile Nature Center update. Info 2 is a FCPA energy plan update. And Info 3 is an FCPA zero waste plan update. Couple chairman's matters this evening. First, just 2 reminders. Allison, it's May 8th, right? the EQUAC, the joint EQUAC meeting. I want to make sure I.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, May
Yes.
8th.
At 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m., the government center, not our building, but across the street, the government center, rooms 4 and 5 at 6 p.m. Hopefully many of you can join. And then another reminder, next time we meet when we're in person on May 22nd, we'll be doing photos during dinner. So it's both a all board photo, and Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe we are also doing headshots for people if they want anything updated. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So just keep that in mind, those two housekeeping items. I'm sure Jay will talk about this more during her portion, but we had a really good Earth Day on Saturday. We're able to unveil the Mobile Nature Center. That was pretty cool. Jonah and Maggie were there. Thank you guys. Tim, thank you for staying away and keeping the rain somewhere else this year as opposed to last. It's much appreciated. No, the skies didn't open up during the speaking portion. It was a good event, lots of people there. And I think everyone really got excited about the Mobile Nature Center. We got some good press coverage. Channel 9, I believe, was there. And then Ben covered it a little bit. I think we had some good budget testimony from people who came out in support of us. My comments focused mostly on just continued maintenance needs, and also reinforce the equity request that came from that consultant study that we all saw and that we presented to the Board of Supervisors in January. Working on a couple of different budget guidance items with a couple of different supervisors. We'll see how that all turns out. Working with a couple of board members, but they're in the middle of the sausage making phase right now, so we'll see what comes out on the other end. But cautiously optimistic we'll get one or two things to our benefit that'll come out of that. That is all I have. Jay, what do you got?
So while Allison brings that up, thanks for talking about Earth Day. I do have it in here, but I wasn't able to attend, so it's great to have somebody who's actually there. Laud all of the great work that our staff did. And I also want to thank Chairman Stone for helping us out in his work trying to get us some budget guidance. So I'm also cautiously optimistic. Again, no clue where it's in the realm of nothingness right now, and we'll just see sort of what pops out at the other end. Now I got to take a deep breath because I believe my Directors Matters might eclipse the length of our total board meeting because we have so much stuff that's happened in the last few weeks. So let's get into it. Next slide. Okay, so first, summer camp registration continues. The wait list is open. I also went down there to get my kids on a couple of wait lists. We have 70% of all of our spots filled, but that's to say for anybody listening who are still looking for some great opportunities for your children, they are still 30% that are available. We've had a lot of successful registration events over the last month, and additional camp registrations and revenue, and the system's operating smoothly. I will report at both of the events. We have approximately 10,500 spaces left, and we'll continue our marketing campaign to try to get that up to 0, hopefully down to 0, I should say. Next slide. So we had a conference for Spanish-speaking landscape professionals, which is pretty awesome. It was the second annual conference that was co-sponsored by us and Nova Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as Plant Nova Natives. We had 158 attendees. As you can see, it was at the Government Center, multiple workshop sessions on subjects like why it makes sense to be in nature, garden businesses, identification and removal of invasive plants, maintenance, safety, etc. This is all part of our Latino conservation initiatives, so that's pretty cool. Next slide. So I was honored to help Bobby present the Eakin Philanthropy Award. This was for 2022, but it took a long time to wrangle the group that's there. So I joined the Fairfax County Park Foundation, McLean Youth Soccer, Leidos, and the Embassy and Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates. So out of all of those groups, who do you think was the hardest to wrangle for a photo op? Was not me, just so to my left there is the ambassador to the UAE. We recognize a partnership in 2022. They funded the installation of a synthetic turf field at Holiday Field, which is next to Spring Hill Elementary and sort of right across the street from Spring Hill Rec Center. That rectangular field is available for football and soccer. Next slide. We had a strong start to the spring. Marinas, campgrounds, amusements, operating on weekends only through Memorial Day. And since opening on the 6th, we've had over 2,400 carousel riders, 700 mini golfers, 1,800 train passengers, and we got 48 new rowboats. 48 rowboats and 5 canoe rentals. And the picture is the 45 new aluminum rowboats that we have added to the fleet. I've heard that Tim is going to assure that we're going to have a dry summer, since apparently he's in charge of the weather, and for that we appreciate it. Next slide. All right. Speaking of Tim, rain can't beat the bluebells. So the Potomac River level dropped just in time for another outstanding Bluebells at the Bend event at Riverbend. We had 847 attendees, which is one of the largest turnouts we ever had. The bluebells were in peak bloom, which is always, iffy. We want them to be in peak bloom when people come through and actually not have rained heavily right the day before so that they're all washed away. We had exhibitors, food, music, activities, and we had unplanned celebrity. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg and his family were in attendance. So thanks so much for staff. This was not we knew he was showing up, and as if you can imagine, showing up with the Secretary of Transportation comes with a lot of things. And from what I understand, there wasn't a lot of heads up. And so staff had to quickly react and accommodate and deal with logistics of having the Secret Service and all of that other stuff there. But it's great to know that our national officials are appreciating all of the things that we offer and do. Next slide. And the eclipse. Where were you for the eclipse? So there were hundreds of people who joined us at a lot of different events. We had events at Turner Farm Park, which I attended with Supervisor Bierman, Burke Lake, Eleanor C. Lawrence Park, Historic Huntley. Everybody was just loving the event and the glasses, and just the fact that there are people there to talk them through the eclipse. There are a lot of people from the Analemma Society at Turner Farm, and I made a point of thanking all of them because, this is kind of their Oscars or their big event, and the fact that they didn't, in a good, I say this in a good way, nerd out and go towards, the path of totality, and they actually stayed and walked us lay people through what was happening was really great. And so they were very excited to show people all of their telescopes. Staff led a variety of learning activities. We provided solar binoculars. I think we're going to hear a little bit about them later. I was talking to Tammy today, and we're actually going to be sending some glasses off to people who don't have that opportunity, because there's another eclipse in South America later on, but we'll talk more about that later. It was widely covered in the media, and hundreds more chose to view the eclipse in park settings across the county. Next slide. So the Horse Expo, we had a packed house, over 6,000 people. 19 breeds participated in the parade of breeds, including some breeds more than 3,000 years old. The crowd enjoyed several demonstrations, mounted archery, games, police drills, and there were dozens of vendors demonstrating a variety of equine care and services. It's always a very popular event. Even if you're not into horses, I really suggest coming out to the expo next year. And that's at Frying Pan Farm Park. It's not on the slide. Next slide. Earth Day. 2024. So happy that it didn't rain. Even when it rained, people came out last year in droves in the morning, but we had a very successful Earth Day. More than 7,000 people attended. I got text from our county executive and other people who attended just saying what a great event it was. We had an army of volunteers, 104 community volunteers, 87 vendors. We unveiled, as Kyle said, the new Wonder Wagon. And we partnered with Our World to reduce the overall event waste by using reusable cups and food containers. Next slide, I think this continues. These are some of the voices from the crowd. You know, it was a great event. Definitely come back next year. It was amazing. So impressed with the variety of vendors. Love the reusable food and drink containers. And people brought buses full of families who all had an outstanding time. I know it's a lot of work, and our staff put in a lot of time and effort to this. It's just really great to see 7,000 of our residents come and enjoy and celebrate the earth. Next slide. And I am going to actually turn it over to, I'm not going to talk about her. She's on the call right now, but I did want to welcome Deidria Grayson. She's our new Marcom Division Director. I'm going to let her do this slide and tell you a little bit about herself. And I think this is the last slide, Deidria, so go for it if you don't mind. I'm putting you on the spot completely.
Absolutely. I'll make it quick. Hi, good evening, everyone, all members of the board. As Jay mentioned, my name is Deidria Grayson, and I'm very excited to be here as the new division director for the Marcom team. And to be able to lead such a strong team. I come with over, well, not even over, actually, I'm right at the milestone of 20 years of experience in advertising and marketing communications. Previous clients have been McDonald's, Walmart, Coca-Cola, but I do have a special zeal and passion for the outdoors. So I'm excited to show up in service for Fairfax County and the residents that you and we all serve. I am a Detroit native, so sadly I'm not a native of Fairfax County, but I hope you'll allow me some grace there. But I did attend college in the area at Howard, so in some ways I'm happy to be home. But thank you to everyone for the warm welcome, and I look forward to working with you.
Welcome.
Thanks, Deidria. And that is it for me, Kyle.
All right, thank you, Jay. Deidria, nice to meet you. Welcome. Looking forward to working with you. It's okay that you're not a Fairfax native. I'm not either. They do let some of us in.
Perfect.
Let's go around the horn. Abena, you have anything for us tonight?
Just welcome, Deidria. Look forward to working with you.
Bill?
Welcome, Deidria. You're from the right place for sure. I know that. I know that very well. And I may even know something about your past. So glad you're here. Farmers Market in Reston opens on Saturday. Have a great week, everybody.
Dr. Carter.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Deidria. I do have several family members who attended Howard University. Anyway, that's beside the point, but welcome. I don't have anything other than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Deidria. I'm really glad that you joined us. I think it's going to be great having you. And just a very quick shout out to the staff for a fabulous Earth Day. That was such an amazing event. I think everybody really, really enjoyed it. And the gods of the weather looked kindly on us this time. So hopefully that will last. That's it. Thanks so much.
Linwood?
As a Fairfax County native, I welcome you very, very, very much, and don't hold it against you for 1 second that you're not. Welcome, welcome, and I pass.
Thank you, Linwood. Tim?
Hi, Deidria. Thank you. I look forward to working with you, and beyond that, Kyle, I pass. Thank you.
Ron?
First, I want to offer thank yous to staff over the last few weeks for fielding a lot of questions out of the supervisor's office, plus a few resident requests that took some time and some level of review to get the history right. I was able to go to a couple of Nature Conservancy's cleanups over the last couple of weeks. They had great crowds for those as well. And I actually feel like there was less trash in the woods. So that was a double win. I'm looking forward to having the Wonder Wagon at both Eileen Garnett this Saturday for their Earth Festival, plus at Culmore Days later on in the early part of May. But those are events that preclude our summer concert series, which is going to get kicking off on June 14th, and we're all looking forward to that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ron. Faisal?
Well, Deidria, we are happy to have you here and look forward to work with you. And with that, I'll pass.
Ken? Are you here with us still? All right, I'm going to say no. Michael?
Can you hear me
Unlike
now?
everybody else, Dave.
Oh, Ken, I can hear you
Ken.
now. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first, welcome to JJ. Excuse me. Look forward to working with you. You couldn't have picked a better place to come. A couple of comments on Earth Day. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the Sully event. However, I want to mention that there were Earth Day events conducted at a more local level. I attended 3 of them, very well attended by a number of residents, 2 in Providence, and one that was a joint between Hunter Mill and Providence. And it was very well attended by all ages, but I think it's important to note that there was a large number of young people at these events, and that's a good sign to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Michael?
Deidre, welcome. This is a good place to be, and no matter what Bill says, we won't hold Detroit against you. Beyond that, I just want to thank staff for everything that they've been doing. There's lots of sports have been going, lots of folks using the fields and the courts and everything else. I just appreciate all the work and effort to try and get everything up and running, and you take care of walk-ons and everything else. Y'all work your butts off, and I just really appreciate it. And I know the groups do too. With that, I'm done.
Jonah?
First of all, just a big welcome to Deidre. Super excited to have you on board. And I just want to second Maggie's thanks on Earth Day. The staff was amazing. It was a huge event. And I mean, I could really tell there was so much care that went into all those activities for the kids. And you could really see, I mean, there was just, you know, kids having fun all over the place. So thank you for that. Also, just a quick thank you to staff for all the briefings that they've given me over the past couple of weeks. I really appreciate that. I feel much more comfortable with knowing the ins and outs of, well, maybe not the ins and outs, but the overarching themes of what goes on at the Park Authority. And, you know, it just has reinforced to me what amazing work a few people do over a really large portfolio. So thank you for that.
Great. Thank you all. Allison, anything else to come before us this evening?
No, sir, that's it.
All right, then I will declare the April 24, 2024 Park Authority meeting adjourned. See you guys in, well, some of you hopefully on May 8th and the rest of you on the 22nd of May. Have a good night.
Night all.
Good night, y'all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.